Hi everyone, it's Liam here from Rating the Races. So we're going to have a look at some of the races tomorrow. There's a few that I like for tomorrow. There's also a few on Saturday, but I will be back with another video for Saturday. So let's kick off with tomorrow's. Now don't forget, tomorrow's ratings are actually free for everyone. Just log on. As long as you've got a free account, you'll be able to see the ratings. What do I mean by the ratings? I mean the rank order, the R figures, all of the stats on the right hand side here, which you don't see if you're a free member. So let's get on with it. The first race that I like a horse in, you'll know who it is if you follow me, if you follow my videos. I think it's a good draw. It's Revich, who's got stall 6. So I started tweeting about Revich earlier this season on April the 4th, which actually wasn't that long ago, was it? Down £1 to 92. Similar performance as in 2022. No reason to do any different. Next time, where was I suggesting running this handicap at Chester on Friday? This is the race they're going for. The 130, which is spot on. Last time out, no change on 92, and in my opinion bumped into two really well handicapped horses in Jimi Hendrix and Latam. I know Jimi Hendrix got beat last time out. Totally ignore that run. That was on heavy going, which is what he doesn't want. As soon as he's back on better going, he will go close again. Latam had won the Irish Lincolnshire, then finished second in that good handicap. Revich ran a really good race for third, and from stall 6, I would expect him to go very, very close in this race. He was third in it last year, not beaten far, beaten half a length and a nose. Off, what was he running off? 95. I know Harry took 7 off. Runs here off 92. I would expect him to go very close, as I said. Last year's winner actually does reoppose Red Mirage. He won off 90 that day. He's up to 92. So there's not a lot between them in terms of the handicap marks they're carrying, and also taking into account the claim that Harry had last year. But I think Revich has been planned at this race. I think they've got things ready for him, whereas Red Mirage hasn't had the run. He may well need the run, whereas Revich should be perfectly tuned up for today, or tomorrow, sorry, and that is why he is currently 11-2, and he is the one that I am very keen on in the first race. Boardman is a frustrating horse. He's difficult to get right. Yes, it could go right, but hopefully tomorrow is Revich's day at 11-2. The second race that I want to talk about, whoops, let me just refresh that page. Let's get some colours, there we go. The second race I want to talk about is the Chester Cup. And I like 2 in this race. Both have a very similar form line, and both have actually raced against each other a couple of times. And they are Call My Bluff and Emin. Now, Call My Bluff is actually being really well supported. You can see that he's now top price 8. Ignore that 10s, that won't be available. 17-2 in 2 places, 8-1 comfortably. 17-2 at Ladbrokes and Corals. You could possibly say he's 8.5 to 1. Definitely 8s are available. So why do I like Call My Bluff? Well, he has some really good Chester form. He finished 3rd in the Chester Plate last year off 85. He has also been to Chester and finished 2nd to Emin when he didn't get the clearest of runs. He has also won a race beating Speedo Boy, who was for Ian Williams, and Ian likes to target Chester. Speedo Boy had obviously gone well previously in a Chester Plate as well, when 4th behind Green Book. So it's very much full of Chester specialists in the form lines with Call My Bluff. His last time out effort behind Novel Legend was a good effort, giving away weight to the horse that would have been favourite for this race. And if you really liked Novel Legend, you would have to also like Call My Bluff, who was surely having that run with this in mind. Whereas Novel Legend, he was so low in the handicap, Novel Legend, off 87, he wasn't going to get in the Chester Cup, and as it happens, he hasn't, even with his penalty. But they were probably trying to hope that they would get in, whereas Call My Bluff was already in, and didn't need to, or just about got in, but didn't want to disappoint, but also didn't want to show his hand on his first run for 195 days. So I'm really keen on Call My Bluff here. The second horse that I do like from stall 1, and I think that's key for him, is Emin, who has actually beaten Call My Bluff. He beat him at Chester in the Watergate Cup over 2 mile 2, so the same course and distance. He beat him with Star Caliber back in 3rd, Lander Winter 4th, Mirando 5th, Frankenstella, who was unlucky, back in 7th, and a Benina back in 8th. The thing with Emin is he's got to get to the front and then slow it right down and dictate and hopefully take all the beating. Now, Harrison Short knows the horse really well. He's ridden him three times in the last 4. Zach Wheatley actually rode him to win at Chester, but he also finished 2nd to the Gadget Man at Chester, 4th to the New Form Way at Chester, 2nd to Hydroplane at Chester, 4th in the Plate. Harrison Shaw rode him so many times, so he certainly knows how to ride him, and he knows to ride him from the front, and he just needs to get his fractions right. If he gets his fractions right from the front, then I think Emin is a big player from stall 1. He'll be stacking them up. Call My Bluff shouldn't be too far behind, maybe 2nd or 3rd. They've both had runs, so Emin's had a couple of runs now over trips that have definitely been too short. A mile and 5 and a mile and 4. He definitely wants this 2 mile, and he will try and hang on at the front. This 2 mile 2. He will try and hang on at the front, and Call My Bluff will be picking up late on. Hopefully, it's those two right near the bottom of the handicap that go really close. The other horse I will be watching is Yukon Glen, who I think is running here out of... they know he won't win and they can drop him a couple of pounds because I'm interested in him for the Ebor. So Emin, you can currently get at 11s. Yeah, there's a few places at 11s. Bet Victor, William Hill. And I'm hoping for a good run from the two that are both very well drawn. The next race I want to talk about is the Chester Plate. So it's the B version or the consolation race for the Chester Cup. Now, there's a couple of horses in this race, and interestingly, they've come out top rated and RTR2 on our ratings. Now, both of those carry penalties for recent wins. Novel Legend, obviously, as I just mentioned, was beating Call My Bluff. Novel Legend having had the run, so, had already had a fitness run at Kempton, and then beat Call My Bluff. Now, despite getting a penalty, doesn't get in the Chester Cup, which they will be disappointed with, I'm sure. The second horse, Just Us, won a race at Doncaster over 2 mile, beat Cogital by 9.5 lengths. Very impressive. And you can understand why they're targeting a race like this with a £3 penalty. They've put the visor on as well. My selection in this race, however, is going to be neither of those. My selection is going to be bottom-rated Malacana. And I think she's bottom-rated. I'm saying she. I'm sure she's the she. I think she's bottom-rated based on her hurdle form, not her flat form. Let's actually look at her flat form. I'll load up those races. And there's something really quite interesting in her form, in my opinion. So she was winning at Newmarket and Ascot on her last 2 starts. When she won at Newmarket, look who was second. Second was Novel Legend. And when she was winning at Ascot, look who was third. Just Us. Now, interestingly, if you watch those races, both times you think Malacana's going to get beat. Both times she's under pressure, she's being pushed along, other horses are coming up alongside her, and she's battles really well, and actually starts to go away again at the finish. And I think this 2 mile 2 trip will suit perfectly. I think she wants all of this trip, and it might just be that over hurdles she's not been running over far enough. I mean, she's got flat form over 2 miles, so to run at Cheltenham in January over 2 mile over hurdles, that was never going to be the trip. She probably wants 3 miles over hurdles. I think she is... I think she's very interesting here. If we actually look at when she beat Novel Legend, she was running off a mark of 77. And she was running off a mark of 77 and Callum took 5 off. So essentially she was running off a mark of 72. Novel Legend, because he was a 3-year-old at the time, he he was a 3-year-old at the time, was getting the weight for her age allowance, so was only carrying 9 stone 2, so was actually carrying a pound less than Malakana, even taking into account the claim of Malakana. Tomorrow, Malakana gets to carry 9 stone 7, whereas Novel Legend has to carry the full 10 stone. So £7 difference, and yet was getting £1. So it's actually £8 worse off with Malakana. Plus, I think the triple suit. Plus, she's got fitness. She should be fit from her hurdles. She only ran back in March, so it's not like she's been off a long time. If she was drawn in 1 or 2 or 3, I'd be really, really confident. She isn't. She's drawn in 11, which isn't ideal. But as you can see, it does have a reasonable number. Where is she? Down here. 16.6%. So they do have wins and places from that draw over this trip. You certainly can win from high draws, and you can win from low draws. It's in the middle that you kind of get stuck. Whereas I think she'll be okay from 11. I think that's just about high enough. I hope Safi just jumps out and slowly works her way forward. If she could be in 4th, 1 off the rail, coming into the final half mile, I think she will battle a lot more than some of these others. Some of these others are going to find the end of their... They're going to reach the end of their tether at, let's say, the 2 mile as they're turning into the final straight, whereas Malakana's just going to keep running. And I'm really hopeful of a big run from Malakana. She is a bigger price than you would expect, considering Novel Legend is like 2 to 1, 9 to 4. Just Us 15 to 2, 8 to 1. Malakana's 14 to 1. I think that's too big a price for a horse that has actually beaten the favourite and the 4th favourite recently. Or not recently, but in her last couple of runs on the flat. I think her flat form is much, much better than her hurdles form. And she's being priced up on her hurdles form, not her flat form. The final horse I want to talk about is in the 410 at Ascot, and this is quite an interesting one. This is, if you want a form line that has worked out really well, Orazio's last win is just that. So Orazio runs here off a mark of 93, which is only £4 higher than when winning last time out. Now, it's possible that he's improved, but it's interesting that he's still a colt, so they obviously believe there's still ability in Orazio. Otherwise, they would have gelded him by now and gone, we're giving up. We're holding on to him as a colt. He's the type, obviously, for Susan Roy, that could be one of these really well handicapped horses that goes on a sequence. And if there's a form line that would suggest you're going to go on a sequence, this is it. Last time out, Orazio beat Probe, Chairman of the Board, Leap Abroad, and Admiral D. Probe had come into that race off the back of a win at Wolverhampton and has since gone and won a Howden handicap at Newmarket for worth 51 grand. The second placed horse, or the third place behind Orazio, was Chairman of the Board, and he went on to finish second behind Probe at Newmarket. 4th place Leap Abroad finished 4th at Newmarket, and 5th place Admiral D ran an eye-catching race in 7th when didn't really like the ground, I don't think. Interestingly, Admiral D is entered and is declared to run on Saturday, right at the bottom of the handicap in the Azzurro Victoria Cup. So we will have another look at him, although I'm not totally sure the ground suits him. So as I was saying, going back to that Orazio form, if there's a form line that has worked out well already, it's this one. And to be honest, I was surprised to see 5 to 2 about Orazio. It's the type of horse, as I said, that the Roys like. When their horses start winning, they can often go on long streaks, as they have with Concord recently, and that one from last season that I can't think of its name. It's actually down to run, I think it has got. Let me just see if I can find the name of that horse. It's not running, so I can't remember it. What was it called? Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's another horse that went on a big sequence for the Susan Roy. So Orazio could certainly do that. And at 5 to 2, I think it's worth having a go. The fact that he's beaten Chairman of the Board. And there could be more to come, because if you look at the efforts from those two horses, chairman of the board, has now had 34 runs in his career, whereas Orazio still very unexposed with just the 5, and now obviously having won his second. That's his second win in total. They did think he was good enough for an entry in the Gimcrack a couple of years ago. Possibly needed the run back this season, and then got back to winning ways and could well be well ahead of his mark. So Orazio at 5-2 there, I quite like in the race at Ascot. So I recap, Revic, I think he's got the draw. It's been the target for a little while. It's the race I've been looking out for him for. Currently available at 11-2. 2 in the Chester Cup, Call My Bluff and Emin from their low draws. Emin should go forward. Call My Bluff shouldn't be too far behind. In the plate, I'm taking Malakana, bottom rated, to beat those 2 at the top, purely on the flat form where she's actually beaten both of those in her last 2 runs. So I'm hoping for a big run from Malakana. And then finally, over at Ascot, Orazio to progress now that he's got his win on the board this season, and hopefully that form was rock solid. It looks rock solid, and I think he's the one to beat. Thanks for listening. As I said, I'll be back tomorrow. There's a couple I've spotted at Ascot and at Haydock.